Okay, so Pankaj has shared his file. Let's see that. So there's a problem in this. Uh, the thing is, as you can see, the thickness at the top and bottom is different. So you probably scaled this area, but not only that, I think you scaled all of them. So you can see it is completely going down like this. So we have to correct it. So I'm selecting the bottom part and you can see I'm pressing the middle button. Let me open two views. One second. So yeah, I will turn on the grid and I just have to scale it up. I've selected everything. I'm pressing the center piece and scaling it up. You can see the line is now straight over here, but again we have issues at the base. So let's scale that again. And here also. Now it is fixed. Now the scale is same throughout. I want to show you guys one thing. You can see when I'm pressing 3 right now, if I'm not selecting it, it looks fine. But if I'm selecting it, I'm still seeing the cage. This should happen when we press 2, but it's happening like this right now only. So there's a reason why it happens. One second. Yeah, so if you press Alt and 3, this thing will be activated, and it's a little bit annoying. So to correct it, you can go to one second, let me find it out. Yeah, smooth mesh. Yeah. So make sure to go to the shape option. Wait, let me make it more clear. Okay, so you can see like these two nodes are always there in any object. This node that you're seeing, it's your construction history. Okay, so extrude, extrude face, tweaking, like whenever the split option, like whenever you're using multi-cut, this thing gets added. So this is all construction history. But these first two nodes are always there. Okay. These holds the information for your 3D object. So you have to go under the shape node and it will be like this. Click on smooth mesh. Okay. And just set it to, one second. Yes. You have to set it to smooth plus mesh and re-click on open subdivision, Catmull Clark. Just click on that and it will be fixed. Okay. Sometimes, like right now, cage plus smooth mesh was activated. Sometimes if we just click on smooth mesh, it doesn't get changed. So that's why we have to readjust it. It gets set to adaptive. It has to be on Catmull Clark and click on smooth mesh. Okay. So you don't have to do this in your mesh unless you face this issue. Okay. When you're trying to press 3 and this cage is showing up. So just set it like this and it will be solved. Okay. So we have fixed that width issue. Now the second thing is this edge over here is not close to the bottom. That's why the bottom is getting really rounded. So that's why we want it to be a little bit closer so that it should be rounded, but not too much. So we can arrange it like this. That part is better now. Now here, like the top part, we were still building in our original file, but there's one more issue. So there is an edge here, but you haven't given a support edge. So you can see what's happening. Everything is getting pulled down. There needs to be an edge below this in order to keep the shape straight. If this edge is missing, then you can see when we press 3, it is getting pulled down. We don't want that. We want to preserve the shape. That's why we have to add an edge here, which will hold it. Okay. So that was the only issue in your file along with the bottom issue. Okay. So is it clear, Pankaj? Okay. All right then. So let's reopen our file. Okay. So this is what we were working with. So you can see we already have a good shape, but still there are lots of issues in it. So I will zoom in here, and if I hide this, you can see this area is supposed to be quite sharp. But when we press 3, you can see it doesn't look as sharp. So let's adjust this. I'm going to take this edge, pull it up a little bit more, and I need another support edge. Right now what's happening? We have this edge, then we have this edge, and then after that, this edge at the bottom is really far away. There should be an edge which is really close together in this area. So now there are two ways of doing it. You can take the multi-cut and add an edge there and it will work it out. But there is another tool called bevel, which I was telling about yesterday. So let's see how that works. I'll take a cube so that it's more easier to understand. So selecting all the top edges. I'm actually going to select everything. I have everything selected, all the edges selected, and now I want to bevel. So you can choose bevel from here. The shortcut is Control plus B. I'm going to use the shortcut. So these two things are you will constantly be using. That's why you have straight away shortcuts here. So Control plus E and Control plus B. It's very simple. E for extrude, B for bevel. So I am going to press Control plus B. As soon as I do that, our object completely changes. So what's actually happening? Let me do that again. Our edge is getting divided into two edges. Okay, and we're getting a slope which is very, very large. So we have to arrange it. Now we have the settings here to do that. We have this fraction option. So we can control how much these two edges are far apart. Okay. Now you can see when you click and hold left mouse button and drag the mouse left and right, you're able to go to the whole value 0.1, 2, 3, 4. But if you want to control it even more and get smaller values, you can press Control, left mouse button and then drag. Now you can see we're getting even smaller values, 0.2425. So this allows us to control more. Okay. So basically, there was one single edge that has gotten divided into two edges. Okay. Now we have this segment option here. So we can add segments in between if we want. As many as we want, we can add. Okay, so I'm just going to add one. Now we have this depth option. So if you set it to -1, you will see the slope goes inward. But if it's +1, which it is by default, then it will be going outwards. Whatever edge gets added in between, it will be outwards. Okay. Then we have this metering option. So this is something that we will see later on. Okay. And we also have this chamfer option. So if this is off by default, you will see the actual shape is maintained, right? If chamfer is on, then you get a curve. So if you don't want this curve, you can turn it off and you will just get edges. If you remember day before yesterday's class when we were talking about adding edges and everything, this is basically what I was doing, right? I was creating a sandwich. This was our original edge and I was adding edge above and below that. So with this bevel tool, we don't have to do it separately. We can just select everything and apply bevel. Okay. And if we don't want chamfer, we can turn it off and it will maintain its original shape. Okay. So this is how bevel works. Now this comes in handy if we know we need only two edges in a certain area. So here I just want two edges. So I'm double clicking it to select it and I'm going to press Ctrl plus B. And you can see I've got like really large fraction. I can make it smaller. And now you can see our edges are really close together. Now if you want, you can turn off chamfer, but I'm going to keep it on. And you can see now when I'm pressing 3, we're getting a much sharper look. Why? Because we have two edges which are really, really close together. Whenever two edges are really close together, you will get a really sharp look. Whenever edges are really far apart, you will get much softer look. This is the reason that a default cube completely collapses into a ball when we press 3. Because all the edges are so far apart. There's nothing to hold it. And here we have these edges really close together, therefore they're holding the shape. Okay. Now I want similar structure in this area. This area should also be really sharp. So I'm double clicking it and I will bevel it. Now you can see I've got a really big fraction. I can make it small. And now if we press 3, we get a sharper look. I will add another edge in between to control its curvature. Okay, it should be a little bit more curved in the center. That's why. And I'll add one at the top as well. And scale it up so you can see now we're actually controlling the shape much better. Okay, so this is what we're getting. It looks more defined. Now we don't want the bottle to be closed. Of course the top of the bottle should be open, right? So we need to delete this. Now the thing is, I can definitely double click on this area, but for this part I've already introduced the paint selection tool. We can definitely use that. But there's another way. See, this whole mesh is now completely closed, right? There are no holes in this mesh. Now, if I come over here, I've selected one, shift, double click, and I've selected the whole loop. I'm going to delete that. So that is deleted. And now this one is still a part. Okay, it is still a part of this shape, but it's not connected with anything. So when you delete a part of mesh completely like this, it gets separated. This one, you can see when I'm double clicking on it, it is getting all selected, but this middle one is not getting selected. If I double click on that, you can see it is getting selected. So basically we broke the connection in between. Let me undo this. When everything is connected, there are no holes. If I double click, you can see everything gets selected. If I delete this loop, we break the connection. Therefore, this gets separated. So I can just double click on this and delete that. And now it's gone. Okay. There is a hole and you can see it's black inside. We'll talk about that also, why it's black. But first, let's continue building our model. So here it should be slightly more straighter. So I'm pulling that in. And now here you can see if we check out our shape in the reference, it is supposed to be more thicker. We do have an edge here, but it's not enough. This is a big change and you can see how much this area is. So we need to add one edge at the top and one edge over here in order to maintain the shape. Okay, so I'm going to take the multi-cut, add one here, double click on it and scale it up. Do the same thing over here. This only needs slight scaling. And now if we press 3, you can see it is maintaining that round shape nicely. Okay, so when you add enough resolution and if you try to shape everything properly, you get good results. Okay, So now here we are still facing issues. So we need another edge here. This one should be lower actually. I'm putting it here and scaling it up. And I'll add another edge over here, scale that up too. And you can see that shape is better. But now there is one more issue. This one is becoming too straight. See, it should actually be like this. It's not maintaining that shape. Again, we have less amount of edges. So I'm going to add another edge over here. Scale that down. And now you can see the shape is better. I'm going to slightly scale it in. And now you can see it's maintaining it much better. Okay. So now we're getting a proper look. Now we need to come down and fix the bottom. So you can see it's completely getting washed up. We don't want that. We need to add support edges here. Before I do that, you see this lower edge? I'm going to slightly scale it in so that I get a curved surface, a very slight curved surface. Okay, so I've added that. Now still you can see when I'm pressing 3, everything is getting washed away. We want to preserve this shape. So how do we do that? We will be adding support edges. Now you can see there are so many edges that we need to add. We need to add over here, and over here, because all of these three areas should be sharp. Only then the shape will be preserved. So if we were to do it with multi-cut, it would take a lot of time, right? So that's why we are going to use bevel. So I've double clicked on this edge. I'm going to press Ctrl plus B. I have a division and I'm going to make it smaller. And now if I press 3, you can see it's looking much sharper than before. We'll do the same thing on the inside. Now this inside edge should be even more sharper. So in this case, what I'll do, I will keep the fraction even lower so that the double edges that I will get will be very close together. You can see now they are far apart. I'm pressing Control, left mouse button, fraction, and keep it really small. And now you can see these are so close together. And if I press 3, that shape is now maintained. And now this last one over here, beveling that as well. And you can see the shape is now really defined. Okay, this is how it needs to be. So just adding edges, adding enough support edges, we get what we want. Now these bottles never usually have a straight bottom. So there is a material called borosil. It's a type of a glass which is used for like it is basically used in labs. But other objects are also sold, jugs and glasses and all. Yes, Ritman, we will render it. We will do that tomorrow. Okay. So yeah, so we have those like we glasses and jugs. Other utensils are also sold. So these borosil, this borosil material is very, very thin. It's like glass only. It is a glass actually, but it's very, very thin. And that's why the base always is flat. But when we talk about other glass materials, like like a Pepsi and Coke glass bottle, Pepsi and Coke glass bottles are like really thick, right? It's a very different kind of a glass. So if they have a flat bottom, they will not have a really good balance. So this whole bottom area is supposed to be pushed inwards. So that's what we'll do, which will allow a better structure, better balance for the bottle. So let's do that. I will take this edge, scale it down, and add another one here. And then I'm going to select this, take our paint selection tool, shift. Well, we don't have to press shift, we can just drag it because by default, paint selection tool actually adds. Okay, so it is added like this. So I'm going to slightly pull it up and then I'm going to extrude it. So I'm going to press Ctrl plus E and pull it up and then scale it down. So we get this type of a surface. This is how it should be. Okay. So we've got a nice base as well. So our bottle is done, but not completely done. Why? Because see, there's no thickness. You can see like these faces, they don't have any volume, right? They're completely thin. So the problem is when we'll render it, that means we will be applying material on it. We will put lights and we will get a image out of it. Now we need a glass material, and glass material is transparent or translucent. If we see our reference, this is actually translucent. We can slightly, very, very slightly see through it. Okay. So this kind of material needs to have a thickness, otherwise it will not work correctly. The light will not pass through it. Refraction will not happen correctly. Okay. Refraction is a property. So we will be talking about all of that tomorrow. So anyway, it is not thick enough. So we need to correct that. So before we do that, let's talk about why it's black from the inside. All the objects that we have, all the 3D objects, they are black on the inside. Why? Because this lets us know which side is facing up. Okay. So this is defined by normals. Let me show you how normals look like. If you go to display, polygons, and if you click on face normals, you will see lines coming out. Okay. So these normals are telling us the direction of the face, which side is facing up. Now this is important. Let me turn it back off. This is important because when we render it, we apply the lights and we get out the final image. The light will not behave correctly if the face is inverted. You will get shadows incorrectly. You will still get a picture, but there will be darkness and lightness in awkward areas. It will not be how it should be. Okay, so that's why it's important that whenever you're creating a model, your normals should always be facing outwards. Okay, the black part should be inside. Now this is clearly visible. You will never miss it because it will look black. Now let me show you. So yeah, so we were about to extrude it. Let's do that because only then we will get a thickness, right? When we extrude it up. Till now, we have only been extruding faces. Now we will actually select the whole object and then extrude it. So let's do that. I'm going to press Ctrl plus E. Okay, and we have this Z axis. I'm going to use that. You can see when I pull it out, the surfaces look gray. That means the normals are facing correctly. But if I move it in, they are now black. That's because normals are now in the wrong direction. Best thing is that we can correct it. We can reverse them. So we will do that. Now we cannot take this thickness outside. Why? Because we followed our reference in a way that our outer edge is having the main width, right? If we move it out, then it will not match with the reference. It will be thicker. So this extrusion should go inside. Now, how much thick it should be? These types of glass materials are usually very thick, so it should have this much of thickness. Okay, not this much. This is way too much. This much is completely fine. Okay, so I'm going to press W, let it go, and now you can see the bottle is looking completely black. Let's see what happens if we try to look at the normals. So the face normals are actually facing inwards. It looks like it's actually facing in the correct direction. But let me show you. If I zoom in, you will see the normals are inside. The reason why we're seeing it outside also because the length is really long. So that's why it's poking out. But basically, it is actually facing in. So we have to correct this. How do we do that? We have to go to mesh display. Okay. and we have this option of reverse. You just have to select your object, go to mesh display and click on reverse. After doing that, you can see the mesh is gray now. Let's turn on the normals. So they're facing like this. Now, if you want to double check, you can zoom in and you will see the mesh is black inside and we don't see the green lines inside, right? So this lets us know that the normals are now facing in the correct direction. Okay. So this is important. Whenever your mesh is looking black, select it, go to mesh display and reverse it. Okay. Now you can see this edge, instead of being straight like this, it is going in a slope. Why? That's because the face, look at this face, it is sloped, right? So when we extruded it, it just followed that direction. Okay. Instead of going straight like this, it went into that same direction of the face. And that's why it is sloped. So how do you correct that? Just select that inner edge, move it up. And now there will be a small issue. Let's open this side. You can see it's difficult to match both inner and outer. But there is an easy way of doing that. You select the inner edge, the outer edge, and go to scale, and you have to scale it up. Sorry, scale it down. If you scale it up, it will increase. If you scale it down, you will see it gets at the same length. See, it was like this, and when I scaled it down, they both got it to the same height, perfectly same height. Okay. So I have both of them selected. I will pull them slightly lower because there is one more issue. After adding the thickness, we can see like the top surface is actually flat. So we'll add an edge here, select this edge and pull it up. So now you can see we're getting a rounded edge, but there is another issue. If I press 3, you can see this inner part is going very, very rounded. This inner part doesn't have to be so round. It needs to be rounded, but not so much. Right now it's getting rounded because it has no support. So we can just bevel it. Okay. And now you can see it is a little bit sharper. So we're having this kind of a shape. We have enough thickness and the bottle is now looking perfect. Okay. Now you see, let me show you one more thing. You can see the edges, they don't look very straight. That's because there is something known as anti-aliasing. Okay. If you go to these settings here, this last one, this rounded one, you can see it's written multi-sample anti-aliasing. Okay, if you click it on, you can see the edges are smoother now. If it's off, it's not smooth enough. So by default, this setting is off to increase viewport performance. Right now, we're just working with one object. So we definitely don't need to turn it off. We can keep it on and we can see really nice and smooth edges. We only turn it off when you have like hundreds and thousands of mesh pieces in your scene. If you're creating an environment or anything like that, then you'll have lots of meshes. And viewport can get a little bit slower. So to speed it up, we can just keep this off and the edges will look slightly jagged, but viewport will be fast. Okay. But right now, because we're working with one single mesh, we can keep it on. And you can see it looks nice and smooth. Okay. So let's keep the class till here today. I want everyone to complete this. Lots of people have already completed it and shown me the model. So, and others who are still working on it are also showing. So please complete this. Tomorrow we will render it. Okay. Make it look realistic. Like how you see 3D work in movies, everything looks realistic, right? So we'll see how that is actually achieved. Because right now we've only been working in a 3D space. Now you must be wondering, how do we see these 3D things in movies? Right now we haven't seen that part. So that is done through rendering. We will apply a material on this bottle, define all of its properties and put lights all over. and render it out. And that final image will look realistic. Okay. So yeah, let's keep it till here.